Good day and welcome to the Weekend Review here on CNC3. I'm Soini Gray. Thank you so much for joining us. We kick off our recap with President-elect Christine Kangaloo wanting citizens to give her a chance to prove herself in office. Kangaloo was given her instrument of appointment at the Parliament on Thursday morning, and she is expected to be sworn in March. Charlene Rampasad tells us what she wants to bring to the country as president and her reaction to being called kangaroo when she was elected.
I ask that I be given the opportunity to show, just as other persons have been given an opportunity, other persons who have transitioned from politics into other areas of national endeavor, I ask people to give me a chance.
An appeal from President-elect Christine Kangaloo. She says over the last 7 years, she has divorced herself from political affiliation.
When I became president of the Senate, I resigned from participation in the political party. I resigned my membership. I also, since 2015, as the presiding officer, as the president of the Senate, I have attended no political functions, I have taken part in no political activities, I have made no political decisions. I have received no political instructions.
Asked how she felt about those who protested her election last week, Kangaloo says TNT is a democracy. As for the mocking of her name, she had this to say.
I think I saw something with a kangaroo, and if you know how I grew up with my surname, you will know that there's no joke that you can make about my surname that I don't know about.
Kangaloo says she intends to take up residence at President's house when she's sworn in March. She vows to be open and accessible and shared what she hopes to embody for TNT in the coming years.
And my own life, there have been times when I've had to show resilience. So if you wanted me to give you a word right now to embody what I want to represent to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, it'll be resilience.
Kangaloo will meet with outgoing President Paula May Weeks next week. She also gave a little insight into how she intends to operate as president.
I don't think that the president of the country should be in a press conference every week. I think there are times to speak and there are times to be quiet. And so it'll be according to my intuition.
The chairman of the Trinidad and Tobago Energy Chamber, Jerome Duque, says the Dragon deal between TNT and Venezuela is part of this country's long-term solution for its energy sector. And Energy Minister Stuart Young says work continues on TNT's energy security. Gisha Kaulasa Alonso has more.
The Dragon deal between this country's Shell and Venezuela's PDVSA involves the development of cross-border gas from Venezuela's Dragon gas field. And chairman of the TNT Energy Chamber, Jerome Duque, says this will be good for TNT in the long term, but not necessarily fill the gap in the short term.
It is in fact one of the six points we had outlined in our 6-point plan, the cross-border, access to cross-border gas. And I know there's a lot of work to be done now. NGC is going to lead that along with the government. But we are very happy to hear that. That is good news. As we know, there has been a shortfall, and there is a shortfall in the gas supply that we're going to have over the coming years. This will not assist in filling that gap over the immediate years ahead, but certainly it bodes well for the longer term. I think it opens a door that we've been hoping to open for a very long time now.
According to Mr. Duque, the details still have to be worked out regarding the commercial aspect of the deal.
It has to be commercial, and I think that's where we will have to get into that whole value creation. How do we model that now? How do we negotiate that arrangement in a way that makes gas actually commercial, landed here in Trinidad for our petrochemicals and LNG industry?
President Paula May Weeks is expected to receive the Police Service Commission's merit list of nominees for the post of Police Commissioner in the upcoming week. It is the second such list to be submitted to the President after the first was controversially withdrawn. And as Jesse Ramdeo tells us, over a dozen people, including former top cops, will be seeking to lead the police service.
After previous failed attempts to fill the vacant post of Commissioner of Police, a fresh process is now expected to bear fruit. CNC3 News has been reliably informed that the Justice Judith Jones Police Service Commission will begin calculating the performance points of 16 applicants for the position of top cop. Among them, former top cop McDonald Jacob, Gary Griffith, former head of the Police Social and Welfare Association Anna Ramasa, and current acting police commissioner Ella Christopher. The nearly 2-hour-long assessment of candidates began last week. We're told the last interview took place on Monday morning. Back in December, the Police Service Commission requested an additional month to complete its process. We've been informed that members have remained on course. It means that President Paul May Weeks in the coming days that before demitting office in March will once more be handed an order of merit list of senior officials at the TTPS who would have entered the race. Now, her handling of the first list enough to cast a shadow over her tenure. The finish line, however, would have been shifted back in 2021 after the previous PSC collapsed following the resignation of its members amid controversy with the selection process. The then commission, led by Bliss Sipasad, was accused of being politically polluted after the initial merit list was withdrawn. The incident followed the submission of a report to the Sipasad-led commission by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley on the operations of the Police Service Firearms Unit. President Weeks was forced to break a silence over the scandal, denying that she had participated or encouraged improper interference of the separation of powers over the Commissioner of Police matter. While Dr. Rowley had denied not seeing the 2021 merit list, discussing it or giving instructions about it, he did go on record saying that giving Gary Griffith a chance was one of his biggest mistakes.
Stolen metal and equipment from TSTT and other companies have been uncovered at 2 of the country's ports. This from the Finance Minister, Colum Imberts, noting that TNT sits in a drug trafficking corridor between South and North America. Minister Imbert announces that new scanners, recruitment, specialized units, and operational changes are on the way. Here's Kevon Felmeen with more.
With the ban on the export of old and used metals expected to end in the coming weeks, Customs and Excise Division officers are finding stolen TSTT copper wires in containers at the ports of Port of Spain and Point Lisas. Finance Minister Colum Imbert made the revelation as he opened the division's new $10 million office and jetty at Kings Wharf, San Fernando this afternoon. Imbert said there were approximately 100 containers at the ports when government enacted the ban on August 12, 2022. The Ministry of Finance ordered the division to re-examine the consignments of scrap irons to determine if there were any stolen items there for export. Together with the police, it found copper and pumps and machinery stolen from energy sector companies.
It was a very difficult exercise, but having done it, we have so far unstuffed about half of the containers, and we will be completing all of them in the very near future now that we have the technique well sorted out. But we're not doing this alone. We have an engagement with U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
Last year, businesses were appalled at the 17% rate of container scanning at the ports. Now, Imbert says the division is in the process of acquiring 4 new mobile scanners. It has already issued an international tender notice for the supply, delivery, installation, and commissioning of 4 large-scale, non-intrusive inspection mobile X-ray systems. Imbert anticipates that the tendering process would be completed by the end of February. The division will also improve border security by acquiring cabinet X-ray equipment, trace detection, and chemical identification systems for use at all transit sheds and private warehouses. The X-ray equipment can scan small barrels and crates.
This traffic has generated high levels of violence and gang-related crime in the country. And as we all mobilize to counter these nefarious activities, it is imperative that the Customs and Excise Division upgrades its fleet of mobile scanners to provide enhanced non-intrusive inspection coverage of imports and exports.
Among other upgrades to border protection, Imbert said the division identified Queens Wharf, Port of Spain as an entry point for illegal weapons, drugs, alcohol, and pharmaceuticals. In response, The division will implement measures that include strengthening the gates and perimeter walls to restrict vehicular traffic and establish a preventative branch to facilitate joint operations with other law enforcement agencies. The division will fill the post of Assistant Comptroller to oversee the operations of the Post Audit Unit and Internal Affairs Unit. The objective of these units is to crack down on corruption within the division and investigate the operations of importers and exporters.
Now we pause for a very short commercial break. More for you up next. Welcome back to the Week in Review from the CNC3 newsroom. Work on the North Stand at the Queen's Park Savannah was halted on Monday because several pieces of steel went missing. It comes less than 2 weeks before the Panorama semifinals kicks off at the venue. Chairman of the National Carnival Commission, Winston Gypsy Peters, confirmed that the pieces of steel are nowhere to be found, but couldn't say whether they were stolen. Otto Carrington tells us more in this report.
With weeks away before the big show, workers showed up on Monday morning at the Queen's Park Savannah to continue construction of the North Stand. But to their surprise, some materials weren't there. Several steel structures nowhere to be found. CNC3 News spoke with some workers at the site off camera. They told us work is now halted, prolonging what they were hoping would be a quick job.
The iron that missing for the North Stand, but they're trying to keep a hush-hush but holding back the work right now. And also I want to speak about the condition that workers are working in. We're working in a very bad condition, a risky condition.
NCC Chairman Winston Gypsy Peters confirmed that steel from the North Stand was missing and he is awaiting a report.
I couldn't tell you. I know that some pieces have gone missing, but I couldn't tell you how much or from what part of the building.
The North Stand is making its return. It's not the first time equipment at the site has gone missing. The NCC confirmed the missing steel and noted that work has halted, but he assured patients that this will not hamper Carnival celebrations.
Well, it might delay the construction somewhat, yes, because it is something that we have to get done, but I'm sure that with the resilience that we have in this country, we are going to get it done.
He could not confirm whether the pieces of steel were in fact stolen. CNC3 understands that the contractor is currently sourcing the steel to complete the project. The National Carnival Commission was allocated $147 million for this year's Carnival event.
And the heavy police presence in FETs is costing promoters big bucks. In fact, they are paying exorbitant sums to the police service for party protection. But with promoters already struggling with ticket sales, their association is calling on the TTPS to stop adding to their burdens. With Angelo Jedediah reporting, here's Chester Zambrano with those details.
We are having a big issue with the police service of Trinidad and Tobago. And we are here this afternoon to call them out on it and to say, get your act together.
A strong message from the Trinidad and Tobago Promoters Association. According to the TTPA, police have been extorting promoters through exorbitant fees. To host any event, promoters are required to apply for a special license through the courts. But that process, he says, has been anything but smooth.
Sometimes we get court dates for your event on the day of your event. You have to go find this money, pay the police, come back to the court to get it. You have no time to dispute this because your event is probably that same night.
The association is calling for a policy which will better guide the pricing structures for promoters and police.
We have police officer bills ranging from $18,000, $38,000, over $100,000. Every other industry would have regulations. Why not the entertainment industry, the music industry? Our culture is an industry in itself.
Despite police being there, promoters say they are still required to pay for private security.
Well, you hear any laughter from some promoters, and this is an issue that we brought up with them, is that we as the promoters have to pay these police, and if I be frank with the media, we actually do not know what are the roles and responsibilities of these police officers when they get to the event.
The association says the high police presence is making FET goers uncomfortable. almost as though they're in a war zone.
They have not had a control over the crime rate, and they want to send extra police officers because it's deemed a hot spot or this is a high-risk area. We will fully welcome that, but not at our cost, because we have our bills to pay.
Now, CNC3 News reached out to the TTPS for a response, and up until news time, our calls and messages went unanswered.
Millions of dollars in rent. That's what the San Fernando mayor claims the NCC and TUCO owe in rental fees for the use of Skinner Park. This was revealed mere weeks before the refurbished facility reopens on February 4th. Ivan Tulsi and Sasha Wilson bring us more on that developing story.
The newly renovated Skinner Park is scheduled to reopen on February 4th. But as San Fernando Mayor Gino Agrello made the announcement on Wednesday, he also made a shocking claim. NCC and TUCO owe millions in rental fees.
I hope that TUCO and NCC will pay the outstanding bills that they have for Skinner Park over the years, because we are yet to receive rental fees for Skinner Park.
As for how much is owed, the mayor says
it would be 7 digits. You don't have an idea? It's a lot. I'll have to look at past 15 years or so and add it up.
He says 3 main carnival events, including the Chutney Soca Finals and Calypso Fiesta, will be held at Skinner Park. And going forward, they would be implementing a proper business plan for the management of the facility.
At the end of the day, it's our responsibility to do the engineering aspect, the physical infrastructure, the sanitation, the plumbing, the electrical. That bill stays with us. So it cannot be goodwill. As in the past, and Skinner Park could have cost the state a lot of money.
He also took issue with NCC's previous carnival allocation of $400,000.
The paucity of the offer is always, almost unacceptable to San Fernando when you look at what is happening elsewhere. And I mean, this is the second city.
So what's the figure he is hoping to get this year?
3 million.
And this year, the mayor is anticipating a huge turnout for Juve in San Fernando, with 36 bands already registered.
I think we have the biggest Juve in Trinidad. I look at the Tobago are doing carnival now, so in Trinidad, the biggest Juve. And we have to ensure that we protect that, ensure that there's safety, especially with the reach of COVID.
The mayor also sought to clear up any confusion regarding the carnival route.
Royal Road into Coffee Street, left, I don't need that, left onto Superior Street, Rienzi Curtain, Independence Avenue, right onto Sutton Street, left onto Mocrapo Street, Harris Promenade, left onto Chancery Lane, right onto High Street.
Attempts by CNC3 News to get a response from NCC Chairman Winston Gypsy Peters and TUCO President Ainsley King to these claims were unsuccessful.
A secondary school student may face permanent injury to his eye following an altercation with a classmate. Now, the wounded child's mother is calling for answers from the school and the parents of her son's alleged attacker. Natoya Francis says an official police report has already been made and she's determined not to rest until her son gets justice.
As school indiscipline rages, one mother has reached her tipping point.
When I watched the video, I see the boy run past me and cuff him in the eye, and he fall down by a car, and the boy constant coughing him up in the head, coughing him up in the head, coughing him up in the head. Nobody even pull off the boy when he was coughing up my child in the head.
Natoya Francis says her son violently attacked after an argument between him and another student escalated. His 17-year-old boy, a pupil of a secondary school in the West, sustained injuries that could now cost him his vision.
The bone that keeping up your eye, that is broken. He gets a hard lash in his eye, so behind the eye is bleeding.
Francis admits that while his son had to be reprimanded in the past for fighting, footage obtained from the school suggests he was not the attacker in the recent incident. In addition to the medication he now has to take, there's a particular pill Natoya finds hard to swallow.
I don't have 45,000 to put out for nobody eye where somebody else child do. And all the child can get is suspended or expelled. And he home happy, and me even studying what can happen now. I studying later on because he was unconscious in the school.
Natoya claims the school's handling of the matter was unsatisfactory. She's also calling for an end to the school violence.
Only go to school to get all the education, and all they want to do is fight. All they want to fight, and all they seen what all they putting all their parents in.
CNC3 News is awaiting an update from the Ministry of Education on the matter.
That story takes us to another break. You're watching CNC3. Welcome back. Time now for a look at sports. The legendary West Indies batsman Brian Lara is back on the team. Now, before you get excited, he's not out of retirement, but will instead apply his wealth of knowledge of the game as a performance mentor. The role will see the 53-year-old working with various head coaches and players, lending tactical advice, game sense, and strategic planning. Speaking on the appointment, Lara said, "I really believe that I can help the players with their mental approach and tactics to be more successful." He has joined the men's test team in Zimbabwe for 2 weeks starting February 4th. Lara will also work with the other West Indies teams as the year progresses. And admitting that he no longer watches West Indies cricket, the former West Indies president, Dave Cameron, pointed to a lack of accountability and an inappropriate business model as reasons for his annoyance. He was speaking on the Mason and Guest radio talk show in Barbados. Ian Wason has his opinion.
As a guest on the Mason and Guest radio talk show in Barbados on Tuesday, former CWI President Dave Cameron, who was voted out of office in 2019 after 6 years in charge, pointed to flaws in the current business model adopted by Cricket West Indies.
While I'm saying the business model, while I was in place, I attempted to do that and we failed. Because in doing that, the players are never going to be the happiest bunch. But we have to secure the organization to ensure that it lasts. And so those discussions about coming together of the players and meeting halfway is what is required, but it's never going to work out in the interest of the players, the current players.
One area he scrutinized was the returns that the CWI gains from the Caribbean Premier League.
Cricket West Indies need to ensure that they get what they need out of it by ensuring that enough players from the region participate, by ensuring the right players are selected, and that players are not being selected because they're friends of friends who are playing.
Cameron also lamented the team's fortunes on the field, stating that he is so hurt by the state of West Indies cricket that he cannot bear to watch the team play anymore. The Jamaican administrator argued that back in 2019, the West Indies beat England in a test series and tied 2-2 in an ODI series with a foreign coach at the helm, and stated that under the current president's West Indian first approach, the regional team has not been able to replicate that success, although the West Indies did beat England 1-0 in early 2022. He made it categorically clear he's not campaigning for CWI presidency when elections are held later this year.
Local football fans desperate to see a ball kicked on home soil can head to the Hazley Crawford Stadium this Sunday to see the TNT senior men's team take on St. Martin in a practice match from 6 p.m. It's in the build-up to the CONCACAF Nations League fixtures for TNT away to Bahamas on March 24th and at home against Nicaragua on March 27th. Head coach Angus Eve has been conducting training sessions involving a squad that's a mix of home-based and U.S.-based players. And president of the Trinidad and Tobago Super League, Lee Davis, says while the issue raised by members that led to his resignation are frivolous, he thought it best to step down from the position. Speaking to CNC3, Davis, who resigned on Monday night, said the business of the league was not neglected. Ian Wason has more.
Lee Davis, along with the first and the second vice presidents of the Trinidad and Tobago Super League, resigned last evening in the wake of a petition signed by more than 50% of the league's teams asking for their removal. According to the petition signed by 12 of the 19 teams, the president and vice presidents have been delinquent in their obligations to the league in several matters. These include not having constitutionally required general meetings, and not representing the league in other football matters. But speaking with CNC3 Sports, Davis said the petition is frivolous.
Plan for the TTSL in 2023 was to get to play the New Elite League. All right, that was going to come on board and then make sure that the club's compliant and everybody get themselves at least available to play in that New Elite League, at least the second tier.
Davis shared what he thought could be the motive behind the petition.
And then when I look at how all the signatories, where they come from and all that, I realize, you know what, this is the election situation that I thought that we had overcome after the election in 2021 it was.
Davis announced his resignation via text message to the league WhatsApp group chat and will formally hand in his resignation letter at a later time. However, he did admit some of the teams that did not sign the petition have asked him to reconsider.
Thank you so much for joining us for a quick look back at the week that was. Join us again same time next week for another look at the top stories of the week. Until then, take care.